Hey y'all, I hope you're doing well today. I had some inspiration come to me, and those are the best the best moments, because it's difficult when you're trying to force creativity to happen. I just feel like it's sort of like you almost need to get yourself in this zone and be recipient. It feels like a numinous experience. That's forever going to be one of my new favorite words after reading that book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. And so if you haven't seen, I've got a lot of videos out there on reviewing that book. But yes, numinosity. And I feel like that's just a gift from the divine, to be able to be a vessel in that manner for inspiration, specifically creative inspiration. And so when I'm preparing a message for my channel, I definitely want to wait until I am inspired, and until it's like you almost enter this flow state. And I know there's actually literature on this out there, so it's really, if you have interest, something that you can look into. It's very interesting to me, but it is almost like you get into this creative flow state. And I know writers experience this a lot, and artists, and a lot of people who just engage in creative endeavors. So I was inspired, and I'm always happy when I want to make it happen, and it happens to just align and come through at the right time. And so I've had some inspiration come through with regards to chaos. And here's the angle I want us to look at this today, okay? Because we know that anytime we have experienced, especially like an ongoing kind of long-term situation that has been very toxic, it's also been very chaotic, right? They just go hand in hand, toxicity and chaos. And a lot of times there's also an element of darkness, like a spirit of darkness too, and danger even. So but I want to talk about specifically how to recognize chaos. And here's why. I feel like as a society, we've sort of I don't know if you would say been conditioned. I don't know how it's happened, but I feel like in general, we have been, we've just gotten to a point where we've accepted it. And like as normal, we've normalized chaos, when in reality we should have a genuine concern about it, because it's highly impactful to our life. And we're going to talk about that today. And I mean, not to mention what stress does to the body. It's funny because I don't know if I mentioned this, but way back in the day, I guess this was probably in the, I don't know, 40s or 50s, my grandmother was dealing with a lot of anxiety, and she went to her doctor. And back then, the doctor actually said to her, he recommended that she start smoking to deal with stress. And he said to her that at that point, he felt like that was safer than the pharmaceuticals that were available for anxiety during that time. So it's just really interesting. I thought I would share that with you all. But my point is, stress is highly impactful on our bodies, and so there's so many reasons to remove ourselves from toxicity. Not trying to fix it, not because that's just staying entangled, we want to disentangle if we are engaged in that web of toxicity. We always want to make sure we get to a safe point, we disengage, detangle from a bad situation. But the bigger picture is that there's chaos everywhere in this reality. And so you may have gotten rid of a big chunk of daily chaos that may have been a big part of your life when you were engaged in a toxic relationship or environment, whatever. But as part of our healing and our continual growth journey, I think it's very valuable for us to learn to cultivate a genuine concern for being able to recognize chaos for what it is, and how impactful it really is, and why it matters. And so I truly feel like this is deserving of our time. And so that's what I want to talk about today. And not only has it been normalized, I feel like, in our society, but I also feel like what truly matters or should matter to us has been diluted and minimized, just in our modern society too. It's kind of like everything's out of balance with regards to not only values in general. It's interesting to look at the word tradition and to think of things like traditional values, and then look at where we're headed with like AI and all this stuff. Is just incredible. And I understand, things will always be in a state of change, continual. I get that, but I think that we need to hold true to the things that matter, and be able to recognize when we're just caught up in where we're just spinning our wheels, and it's harmful or destructive to us in some way, which would be chaos, right? All right, so yes, so I feel like my experience has just been in general as I've gotten older, and I can say that there are people that I've known who are about my age, who have gotten older, and have also shared with me that they are starting to see things the same way. That it's kind of like the things that it's almost like you could just navigate through chaos easier when you're younger. And I don't know if it's just because you're naive and you just don't catch it, or if you just haven't been through as many trials or whatever when you're younger. But when you're older, I feel like you have a lower tolerance for chaos, probably because you've already experienced so much. But I feel like this is just me, I feel like there are two kinds of chaos, and I think it's worthwhile to look at this. The first kind would be unintentional. Okay, this is where people I feel like, and there is literature on this because I've scanned it, in the past. But people oftentimes will they'll unconsciously work out unresolved traumas through creating unconsciously creating scenarios or situations where it gives them an opportunity to work out this unresolved trauma. It's all an unconscious process, and it's just really, this is why the psyche just intrigues me greatly. So when people are doing this kind of thing because they have a lot of unresolved trauma, it does create chaos for themselves and all of those around them, right? And that is, again, it's an unconscious process. That's truly unintentional. But then you have intentional chaos, which is created by narcissistic type individuals, toxic individuals. And of course, they're going to use all of their manipulative tactics like gaslighting and stonewalling and lying. And, we could spend just an eternity on that, but we'll just leave it at that, right? Because you know what I'm talking about if you've done any research on narcissism. But the point is, our goal after enduring so much chaos coming out of a toxic situation is to sharpen our awareness so that we can avoid it. We want to avoid it because it really, in the end, for us, it doesn't matter if the chaotic situation in front of us was created unintentionally or not. It's just chaos. And I thought what we would do is take some time and look at what I call some chaos traps. And these are really interesting, and I'm sure that you could come up with your own if you spend a little bit of time on it. But the first would be situations or platforms that are fertile for fertile grounds for people to plant seeds of chaos. For example, social media, okay? And I know that a lot of people use social media, and I'm not saying that it's all bad, but I truly do believe that we need to use discernment with regards to it, because I have seen in the past where what should have been just a very respectful type platform, like, for example, if parents are getting together to plan something within a Facebook group, or to share the things they've learned about their children's stage of development or whatever it is, things like that. It doesn't take much, and I'm sure you all have seen this somewhere online. It doesn't take a lot for people to get triggered, and it's almost like I feel like people get comfortable, and that's where I think we see a lot of this unintentional chaos created, but it's just still just really over the top sometimes, where these people it's almost like they want to start arguments and to work out their own internal issues, but then everybody else is sucked in and pulled into the drama, and we don't want that. So my goal is, again, I just encourage you to work on sharpening your discernment to be able to see the areas in life where maybe you want to disengage, where you can see this is a potential chaos trap. And so I'm just trying to get the wheels turning, which is always my goal. And then of course we can create our own chaos when we overcommit on like scheduling, if we just try to do too much and it's not realistic. And then you can take that a step further and evaluate that and say, well, why? Why did I overcommit to this committee or this course or whatever it is? And I just encourage you again to look into the quadrants that were defined by Stephen Covey. It's a way to evaluate how you're spending your time and how to not only evaluate it, but how to reassess and to reassign the different aspects of how you're spending your time in your life, so that you're not wasting time and you're focused on the things that are important, okay? And so I would also question expectations. Are you placing unnecessary expectations on yourself? Were they planted, were these expectation seeds like planted in your mind from your childhood conditioning? Like what caused you to impose these unnecessary expectations on yourself that would cause you to overcommit on a schedule, things like that. Ruminating is like chaos in your mind, and if it's controlled and intentional, especially in the early stages of healing from narcissistic abuse, I truly think it can be helpful because you're just evaluating. I wouldn't even call it ruminating. I would just say you're taking a moment or two to look in hindsight to evaluate now that you have this new awareness, and make sense of things. But beyond that, that's what I'm talking about, because if ruminating becomes uncontrolled, then at that point, I feel like it's really kind of driven by our ego, just wanting to have it all figured out and processed right now. And it's a process. That's the thing. To truly do a deep dive and be able to process hard things and trials that you've been through, it takes time, and it's not always, going to fit within our time frame, or, in other words, we can't demand that it happen right away. Sometimes we have to subdue that ego and lean into more of a spirit of surrender to be able to just say, you know what, I can't quite put all the puzzle pieces together in this moment, but they're coming together. I can see that they're coming together. I see the dots connecting. And so, I think we just have to find balance with that. And so, what is the goal of chaos? What is the goal? Because when you spend time thinking about it and you start to see it in almost every aspect of our modern society, in our life, then I like to take it a step deeper and say, what is the goal? I believe that chaos is intended to completely deplete or exhaust our limited time in this life. Because essentially you're spinning your wheels on something that doesn't matter. And in the end, that's been my experience anyway. I don't want to speak for you, but a lot of times when I have found myself in a chaotic situation, it was just stuff that really didn't matter anyway. It was just some kind of drama, somebody started, or that I got caught up in my own head, So I just encourage you to take some time and consider that. And so because of that, our goal really should be to map out how to secure peace and how to how to navigate this life with consistent discernment, operating in consistent discernment, so that we can sidestep chaos when we come across it on our path. So solutions, I always try to be solution oriented, and I appreciate channels that bring things to our awareness. That's very important, but I also love when we have things to research, to go look up and to read and to learn and to do deep dives on. It's just wonderful to inspire one another in that way, to continue learning, because we never stop learning, we never stop growing. So to be solution oriented, I would just encourage you to get back to the basics. A lot of times when somebody leaves a toxic situation, they are moved or called to find some kind of practice of stillness, like prayer, or meditation or yoga or something. But you could also just apply the logical lens here and say, you know what? Maybe I just get still physically too. You know what I'm saying? With my schedule, with my mind. And you can do that by looking at the basics, getting back to the basics, and looking at, I think there's some kind of, I forget if it's who it is. I don't want to say and be wrong, but I'll drop it in the description if I can find it. But online, I think there's this hierarchy of needs. But, I think that's different too for each one of us, what matters to each one of us. So I would just encourage you to just write down how you spend your time and the things that truly matter. They are worth you taking the time to think about and to, ask yourself, my time, the way I spend my time, is it truly aligned with the things that matter to me in the right proportion and the right priority in the right way? So I would just encourage you to look at that and map that out. Because you don't want to just put the stuff that really matters to you at the bottom of your list unconsciously, and then you're exhausted. You don't even feel like getting around to what really matters to you. So I just encourage you to spend some time there. And then when you are assessing what really matters to you, I would encourage you to not let this process be something that's just off the cuff. I would encourage you to truly sit down and take it serious and give it some time and think about it. Yes, and the third thing, solution-wise, would be, once you do identify what truly matters, treat those things as your pearls. And you want to figure out how you're going to protect both the things that matter and your time spent on and with the things and the people that matter to you. And you can do that by avoiding chaos, and sometimes you can avoid chaos by consciously having situational awareness with people and your environment, so that you're not unconsciously giving toxic people fuel to rope you in to their chaos. So these are, they have so many tactics for traps to get you entangled in chaos. So I just encourage you to spend some time and think about these things. And I just hope that you're inspired to educate yourself, to sharpen your discernment, because that's really what it takes. That's what it's going to take to ensure that as you're walking forward, creating your new life, your paradise here on earth, I want you to be able to enjoy your time, because our time is limited. And I don't know how often we really stop and think about that, but it is. And so it matters. Time is precious, and it's priceless. So I just hope that you've been encouraged today to do some thinking that really matters, maybe some journaling, and I just hope that you are encouraged and inspired, and that I got the wheels turning. So thank you for coming along today, and I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I will see you again very soon.